We got that
Find the perfect ride for you today with the New Year New Ride sales event at Guam Auto Spot. Get behind the wheel of the 2024 Outlander Sport starting at just $22,995 or only $156 per paycheck. Visit GuamAutospot.com or call 671-478-AUTO.
Wendy's Guam's Mushroom Bacon Cheeseburger is here for a limited time. Juicy beef, crispy applewood smoked bacon, roasted mushrooms, and melty Munster cheese all in a toasted bun. You can even go double or triple, but hurry, it won't last. So grab yours today, only at Wendy's Guam. You or someone you know looking for a job? Well, Sentinel Security offers starting pay between $10 to $15 an hour, and they'll train you too. Email them today that you're interested at sentinelsolutionsguam@gmail.com. Sentinel Security, Guam's most reliable security solution for your home and business. The moms in your life want ice cream. Treat them from now to Mother's Day to Cold Stone Guam's Mother's Day cake with its layers of moist yellow cake, pistachio ice cream, and pureed raspberries wrapped in a fluffy buttercream frosting. Head on over to Cold Stone's GPO or Micronesia Mall locations any day of the week. Cold Stone Creamery, the ultimate ice cream experience.
This news is brought to you by 76 Circle K Guam.
Good afternoon, my dear friends. It's shortly into the midday. It's 12:15 p.m. on Friday, May 2nd, 2025. How is this first week of the month for you? My name is Torres. Thank you so much for joining me. I apologize. I was supposed to go on last night with this story. I was supposed to work on this story last night after the Finacqua Nubena, but I got home and the power was off. I don't know what happened. I didn't see any news from GPA, whether there was load shedding. I understand other people's power was off as well. But hello to you. Hi, Auntie Bennett. Hi, Charissa. Hi, everybody. A lot of times over this past year, or since this year began, we've been caught up with the back and forth with the national Republicans versus the national Democrats and all the talk of corruption and all the things wrong with the national government that we can get so caught up in these national things or even international events like the death of the Pope and the onset of the new conclave to elect a new Pope, that it takes our eyes off of what's happening here in Guam and what has been happening behind the scenes. And one of those things that's been happening behind the scenes is federal investigations into corruption, into people associated with the government of Guam. And so before I start this story, I quit vaping. You're going to have to pardon me. I quit vaping more than 2 weeks now. And so I need to chew gum all the time. I'll tell you, quitting vaping is much harder than quitting cigarettes. For me, much harder. I have no idea why. I don't know what the science is. But I love me some bubble gum. To start this, there's a note here. We have considered many times when we discuss unsealed federal drug cases, we'll name the defendant. And we'll name the defendant that most of the time, except in extraordinary circumstances where there is a high likelihood that public knowledge of the defendant's name and his or her cooperation against other drug traffickers will endanger that person's life in prison. Today is one of those rare times where we've decided to not reveal the name of the federal drug defendant, the case number, or information that this defendant, because we spoke with him yesterday, provided to Kandit that would tend to identify him. Let me just read what this says. Having weighed the consequences, Kandit has decided to not reveal the name of the federal drug defendant whose unsealed case and interview with Kandit provides confirmation of the FBI investigation of the pending U.S. Attorney's case against Charissa Tenorio. For his safety against reprisal, we identify the federal defendant in this story as Joe Cruz. We will neither provide the case number, the date the case was filed, nor other information Mr. Cruz provided to Kandit that will tend to identify him. Here is the story. Hi, Pito. Hi, Jeremiah. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining. When a federal drug defendant decides to cooperate against other targets of federal investigations, those targets almost always are other drug dealers. The cooperating drug dealer's case gets sealed up. His trial date gets continued every 3 months, and for however long it takes for that defendant to work cases with the Drug Enforcement Agency, Homeland Security Investigations, or the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Sometimes the federal government will involve the Treasury Department or the Internal Revenue Service in these drug cases, depending on the financial aspects of the crimes. Rarely is the Federal Bureau of Investigations involved. And in the 7 years Kandit has monitored the movement of federal court cases and their associated documents in Guam, only 2 drug investigations have ever involved the FBI in a pronounced way. The Boom Mantinonia case, and the investigations involving the cases of Brenda Kinian and her association with former Jotnia Mayor Jesse Blas. The FBI's involvement in those cases had nothing to do with the drugs and everything to do with police and public corruption. Nothing appeared out of the ordinary as Kandit began to review the unsealed court documents in a federal drug case against Joe Cruz. Mr. Cruz, according to the case files, was charged with an information following a raid where federal law enforcement found a lot of cash, a lot of meth, and unregistered guns. The fact that he was charged with an information and not an indictment, and that his case was sealed immediately, is an indication that Mr. Cruz began to cooperate with the federal government shortly after the raid happened. In fact, his plea agreement, also unsealed, verifies this. Enter Charissa Tenorio. Facing considerable prison time, Mr. Cruz accepted guilt and agreed to cooperate with the feds, but according to a review of the documents, beyond the every 3 months continuances, his cooperation was unusual. It wasn't against drug dealers. He cooperated against Lieutenant Governor Joshua Tenorio's sister, Charissa Tenorio. Following years of standard continuance motions, in May of 2024, the U.S. Attorney made the following revelation to the court under seal. And let me show you a portion of these documents so you and anyone who might doubt the veracity of this report can see that it's just in black and white. To quote, "The defendant is involved in a complex criminal investigation," end quote. That statement alone raised our eyebrows, as we have not seen the U.S. Attorney's prior use of the adverb complex to describe one of its criminal investigations. According to legal analysts, a complex criminal investigation typically involves multiple defendants or targets, numerous charges, extensive evidence, long time frame, cross-jurisdictional elements, and the need for specialized knowledge. The Bernie Madoff case is an example of a complex criminal investigation. Then there is the next sentence in the May 2024 continuance motion. The investigation is currently being conducted by the FBI, which is active and ongoing, however not completed. The FBI expects that the investigation is likely to be completed within 4 to 5 months. The FBI plans to convene a federal grand jury in September of 2024. Judges normally continue proceedings in federal cases for no longer than 3 months. This was true in the Cruz case as well, setting the following hearing for August 15, 2024. On August 14, the U.S. attorney filed an unopposed continuance motion to push the Cruz case back even further and to keep the whole affair sealed from public view at least for 3 more months. Aside from the previous information about the FBI investigation, the U.S. attorney dropped this bombshell of information under seal. Quote, the information provided by the defendant was utilized to obtain search warrants MJ 24-00095 and MJ 24-00096, end quote. Those search warrants were issued and filed on the Federal Court Archive online site on August 12, 2024. Those search warrant numbers also match the numbers physically seen by a trusted Kandit source who inspected the 2 search warrants the FBI used to raid Charissa Tenorio and a company associated with her on August 19, 2024. Both those warrants remain sealed. The source was shown the warrants by Ms. Tenorio herself on the afternoon of the raids. Not only that, Mr. Cruz confirmed with Kandit Thursday that the target of his FBI cooperation was Ms. Tenorio. Quote, it was about PUA, end quote, Mr. Cruz confirmed. PUA stands for Pandemic Unemployment Aid, a federally funded unemployment assistance program during the pandemic. Multiple witnesses and victims have said that they've been interviewed by the FBI since August last year about an alleged multi-million-dollar conspiracy involving Ms. Tenorio and Lieutenant Governor Tenorio's boyfriend, Matthew Tapasnia. The common thread among the witnesses and the victims is that Ms. Tenorio used companies associated with herself and Mr. Tapasnia to orchestrate hundreds of false PUA claims for which she allegedly pocketed a significant sum. In March, 2 former associates of Ms. Tenorio agreed to be interviewed and voice recorded so long as Kandit would modulate their voices beyond recognition to protect their safety and their livelihoods from reprisal. The associates, both claiming to be victims of Ms. Tenorio's alleged crimes, said the criminal conspiracy went beyond PUA fraud and the associated offenses of money laundering, wire fraud, and bank fraud. The 2 whom we named Pat and Tyler claimed Ms. Tenorio conspired with bankers and others to steal identities, make false claims to banks, and to pocket the proceeds of personal loans and credit card purchases. Pat also alleged Ms. Tenorio conspired with a now deceased government administrator to defraud the federally funded Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Pat further alleged Ms. Tenorio conspired with government officials at the Seaport, the Department of Public Works, and the Guam Department of Education to fix contracts and to hire people outside the legal process. Kandit has attempted to retrieve public records from officials at 2 of these agencies. The DPW officials provided a partial response weeks after the disclosure deadline. One Seaport official never replied to our Freedom of Information Act demand for public records in her possession. The other said she would not comply. So Kandit is exploring legal options to compel disclosure. Attorney General Douglas Moylan said he will not comment when asked earlier this year whether his office is investigating Ms. Tenorio, and the U.S. Attorney's Office also will not confirm or deny the existence of their investigation. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres. God bless you and have a good day.